everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Repeater, and today we're going to be doing another Killing Floor 2 bracket fight. This is going to be against all of the SWAT weapons versus one another, and determining which SWAT weapon is the best. Now, right away, we can see that there is the medic submachine gun, and a big factor to this is that I'm not going to be ranking the ability to heal allies as highly as I would if I was rating these in like one of my tier lists, for the main reason being that I could just simply say that, well, this weapon provides healing, or this weapon is very low weight, and that automatically makes it better than pretty much all the other weapons because it pairs so well with them. I'm not going to be doing that. We are going to be looking at how good the weapons are. Weight will play a factor into this because the lower weight, the more weapons you can take, the more options you have, which I consider a big plus to really any of the weapons in this game. Let's begin, and we have two of the best weight to killing power weapons that SWAT has available, which is the medic SMG and the P90. So comparing these two weapons, both of them have pretty decent sights. I would say that the medic SMG has nicer sights than the P90. Both these weapons don't weigh very much, although a lot of SWAT weapons don't. This weighs 3, this weighs 5, I think? 4 or 5? I don't remember exactly what the P90 weighs. The P90 does hold more rounds in it by a sizable amount. I believe when you're max level, you can have 60 rounds in the medic SMG, or maybe it's 80 rounds. It's either 60 or 80 rounds in the medic SMG and 100 rounds with the P90. You'll have more shots of the P90. The P90 will do more damage per shot. The P90 does scale better with upgrades in terms of damage. You can heal with the medic SMG, and like I said, it is more lightweight. It's also arguably your best tier 2 option and one of your best weapons early on. If you're running rapid assault in Z time, with the medic SMG, you can actually have infinite healing darts, which can be really useful too for your team, making it arguably one of the best just secondary weapons to have, or third weapons to have, as you're likely going to be able to take 3 weapons with SWAT. That being said, weapon versus weapon, I would definitely rather go with the P90 than the medic SMG if I'm playing solo and I just want to deal damage. The medic SMG can work out very well early on, and if I want to have 3 submachine guns, the medic SMG is definitely going to be one of them. So this one I'm going to give to the P90. Up next we have the UMP versus the MP7. The MP7 weighs less, it also recoils less. The UMP45 you kind of notice having a decent amount of recoil for a submachine gun. It doesn't have a ton of recoil compared to other weapons. I would also say that the MP7 has nicer sights than the UMP45. The UMP45 will do more damage per shot as well as scales better with upgrades. I think these weapons both have about the same amount of ammunition. The weight difference isn't that big of a deal with these weapons either. I think it's only by 2 weight, I want to say. I think this one's 4 and this one's 6. I could be getting those values wrong though. For this one, I think I'd rather go with the more damage, even though it has a slower rate of fire, and it's a little bit harder to control. I still think I like the more damage of the MP45 than the MP7 overall. This one's kind of difficult though, because the MP7 does scale decently well with upgrades and is a great weapon to start out with. It's very strong in the early waves, but I think I'm going to give this one to the MP45. Up next we have the Chris Vector versus the MAC-10. Both these weapons are quite good too. The Vector weighs more than the MAC-10 does. The Vector also has a much higher rate of fire. They both do roughly about the same amount of damage per shot though. The Chris also has better sights, where the MAC-10 sights are a little bit more difficult to use. The Vector is pretty straightforward. Both these have about the same amount of recoil, which is not very much. They both don't weigh very much. This weighs 6, this weighs 4. The Vector is more expensive, but I think the Vector is a better overall choice than the MAC-10 for SWAT is. Maybe if it was still where the MAC-10 was bugged and doing shotgun damage, it would have a better shot than the Vector, but I think the Vector is going to win here. Oh, we have 2 tier 2 weapons right now. We have the Tommy gun and the MP5. Now the MP5 is honestly kind of lacking for a tier 2 weapon. There's not really a reason to take it currently. It's still not a terrible weapon, and it does decent damage. It also weighs less than the Thompson does. Neither of these have particularly good iron sights. I would say the MP5 is better than the Tommy gun, but that's not by a whole lot. Both these have, I think, about the same rate of fire. One of them, the Tommy gun, you can fire in either full auto or semi-auto. This is 3-round burst or full auto. And I never use 3-round burst with it. It's always just full auto. It is easy to control, though. The Tommy gun does have more recoil than this. The Tommy gun also has a larger magazine than this, though, too. I believe the MP5 holds 30 rounds or 40 rounds, and then goes up to 80 rounds at max, or 60 rounds. I can't remember. I think it's 80. And the Tommy gun goes from 50 to 100. So you do get more shots of the Tommy gun. The Tommy gun also does more damage and scales better with upgrades. I think I'm going to give this one to the Tommy gun, though, for the damage and the better scaling, even though it has more recoil and it doesn't weigh as much. And it weighs more, I should say. All right, up next we have the P90 versus the UMP. Both these weapons are quite good. They're both tier 3 weapons. The P90 has better sights than the UMP. The P90 is slightly lighter. P90 holds a lot more shots. Both these weapons scale okay with upgrades. The UMP45 is definitely going to do more damage per shot. The P90, I believe, has a higher rate of fire by probably 100 rounds per second. It's not immensely higher than the UMP. I would say that the P90 is more flexible than the UMP, but the UMP is a heavier hitter weapon. And I'm kind of inclined to go with that over the P90, although they are very close. And I could see myself picking the P90 over it. Up next, we have the Vector versus the Tommy gun. Tommy gun holds more shots. It does more damage per shot. It has worse sights, and it weighs the same as the Vector does for the base. Now, if you fully upgrade both of them, the Vector only increases by a weight of 1, whereas the Tommy gun increases by a weight of 3, I believe, going up to 9 weight, which is kind of awkward at that point. The Vector is generally a better choice in this instance. Even though you have a smaller magazine, you do have better sight, you do have a much higher rate of fire, you'll do more damage per second, and it will generally beat out the Tommy gun in pretty much every instance. Up next, we have the UMP versus the Vector, and both these weapons are quite good too. You will do more damage per shot with the UMP. The UMP arguably has worse sights than the Vector. The Vector has really good sights. Both these have about the same amount of recoil, I would say. Maybe the Vector has a little bit less. Vector has a much higher rate of fire. Both these hold roughly the same amount of shots, and both of them weigh the same. If you want more damage than the UMP, at least more damage per shot, then the UMP is the way to go. If you want more damage per second, the Vector is the way to go. And since SWAT usually wants more damage per second, I'm going to pick the Vector here. All right, moving over here. Ooh, we have some good competition right here. We have the HRG nail gun versus the Bastion. Both of these are considered pretty much top tier weapons for SWAT currently. The nail gun can be fired in single fire or it can be fired in a shotgun mode. That's still fully automatic. That does piercing damage, which is better than the submachine gun damage because piercing damage generally does better against all types of targets. The Bastion counts as assault rifle damage, which is a little bit better than submachine gun damage, since not all enemies are as resistant to submachine guns as they are assault rifles. I think I said that right. The assault rifles are generally going to do more damage against more targets than the submachine guns will. Not by very much, though, and to the large Zeds, it's basically the same. At least in terms of multiplier. But with these, the nail gun does more damage per shot. It also does more damage per second. The Bastion does have the shield, though. And the Bastion also doesn't weigh that much more than the nail gun. You can actually take both of these and fully upgrade the nail gun with it. You can't upgrade the Bastion because it's already a tier 5 weapon, which is fine. And that is an incredibly strong combination for SWAT. Bastion's shield is really nice because it does mitigate damage by a lot, although the increased damage per second of the nail gun is also really good. I could see this one going either way, but I think I'm inclined to pick the nail gun more for its versatility and its damage than for the versatility and the defensiveness of the Bastion. So I'd pick that one. And then we just have the Riot Shield and Glock versus nothing. So now it's the HRG nail gun versus the Riot Shield and the Glock. The Riot Shield and the Glock does way more. It will also give you defensive abilities like the Bastion does. You do have to be ADSing to use that, and that does feel rather awkward to me. Some people enjoy it, but I find it quite awkward. This one, the Riot Shield is pretty good if you're taking the level 5 perk for extra mobility when aiming down sights. The Glock 18 itself will do less damage per shot than the nail gun. It's also much more difficult to control than the nail gun. You can run through ammo pretty quickly with it, and when you're reloading this, the shield essentially doesn't count for anything, so you are vulnerable while you're reloading with the Riot Shield. The nail gun will do more damage. It will do more damage per second. It does piercing damage rather than submachine gun damage, which is better than the Glock 18. The nails can bounce, which is kind of a bonus, and I don't really see much of a point in arguing this anymore. I'm going to go with the nail gun. Nail gun's better than the Riot Shield. I would say even the Bastion is better than the Riot Shield, which we've already discussed, because you get a better option with a defensive weapon. The Riot Shield is more usable, and you can take both these if you want to be super tanky as SWAT. But nail gun is better for overall damage, and I think I'd pick that one. And then we have the Chris Vector versus the nail gun. Now, the Vector has a higher rate of fire and could potentially do more damage per second depending on which targets you're fighting. If you're fighting Scrakes or if you're fighting small enemies, you will be able to do more damage with the Vector, although the Vector does worse against things like Flesh Pounds and against most of the medium enemies, where the nail gun won't have as much trouble there. The nail gun can do more damage per second when it's set into the shotgun mode, though, because its rate of fire is still very high and you're firing out 3 nails with every shot. So you do make up for the rate of fire just for the volume of shots that you get with it. The Vector is more accurate than the nail gun is, and the Vector does have better sights than the nail gun. The nail gun honestly doesn't have great sights. Both these weigh about the same. I think the nail gun's slightly less than the Vector. I could be wrong about that. They might weigh the exact same. This one is tough. These do work well in combination. You can have one for killing small enemies and Scrakes, and then the other one for killing medium enemies and Flesh Pounds. That works really well. But since this is probably your best weapon against large enemies, and SWAT really doesn't have a whole lot of other weapons that are great against large enemies, I think the nail gun wins here. So the winner for the SWAT bracket is the nail gun. But there is some really good contenders here, like the Vector, the UMP, the P90, the Bastion. All of those are great weapons and are really good with SWAT. Oh, the Medic SMG is arguably your best as a second or a third weapon because you get a heal with it and it's just cheap. And if you enjoyed this video and you're not subscribed, be sure that you get subscribed. That way you get notifications whenever I post any of these videos. A very special thanks to all of my supporters over on Patreon and to the YouTube membership program. I really do appreciate that. Thank you guys so very much. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to all of you guys next time. Till then, stay cool, and bye.